Today we're going to be looking into some NBA hot takes, and this video is sure to be a fun one. Be sure to subscribe, and I'm not going to waste any time. Let's get into the first hot take. And the first hot take says, NBA championships today are worth way more than they were in the 90s and before because the talent pool is deeper, the CBA makes it harder to stack rosters, and the competition is way tougher. 2 back-to-back titles now are worth at least 4 or 5 in the Bill Russell era when the Celtics just outclassed the rest of the league. When ranking all-time greats, we need to consider the difficulty of winning championships in different eras. You can't just rank Bill Russell ahead of someone like Steph Curry simply because he has 11 rings while Curry has 4. I'd argue that Curry's 4 titles are more valuable than Russell's 11 because he faced far tougher competition like the Chris Paul and James Harden-led Rockets and LeBron's Cavs with Kyrie, yet still built a dynasty. However, the Warriors' dominance didn't last nearly as long as Russell's Celtics, which only reinforces the point that today's NBA is far more competitive and championship windows are much shorter. So I think it's reasonable to say that Curry's 4 championships hold as much, if not more weight than Bill Russell's 11. First off, Russell deserves credit for dominating his era, but comparing the 1960s NBA to today's league just doesn't add up. His biggest rival, Wilt Chamberlain, often played on weaker teams like the Warriors, 76ers, and Lakers, making it tough for him to break through Boston's dominance. Without free agency, there was little roster movement, meaning Russell's Celtics kept their core intact for most of his career. The only ways to acquire players were through drafting, signing, or releasing them, making major shakeups. They were just rare overall. Contrast that with today's NBA, where super teams frequently break apart due to salary cap constraints, player movement, and shifting loyalties. Because of this, Chamberlain never had the chance to play on a team as consistently strong as Russell's Celtics. And let's not act like Russell carried Boston to those titles alone. The team was stacked with Hall of Famers like Bob Cousy, Sam Jones, John Havlicek, and Tommy Heinsohn. Over his 13-year career, Russell played with 50 different teammates, 12 of whom made the Hall of Fame. Whether you believe those players were truly Hall of Fame worthy or simply benefited from playing alongside Russell, there's no denying that having Cousy and other stars made his job easier. But what really makes his championships less impressive is the era he played in. There were only 8 teams. That alone gave Boston a massive statistical advantage. Even if every team had an equal shot at winning, which they didn't given Boston's dominance, the path to a title was far simpler. Breaking it down mathematically would be, with just 8 teams, the odds of winning a championship in any given year were 1 in 8, which is 12.5%. Winning 2 in a row, 1 in 64, which is 1.6%. 3 straight, 1 in 512, 0.2%. By the time you get to 11 championships, the probability of pulling that off by random chance would be about 1 in 6.45 billion, a tiny number, but still far more feasible than achieving the same feat in today's league. Now compare that to the modern NBA, which has 30 teams. Even if we assume equal odds for every team, the chance of winning a single championship is just 1 in 30, 3.3%. Going back to back, 1 in 900, which is 0.1%, and winning 11 titles in today's era, the math doesn't even matter. It's simply not possible. The second hot take says, the Spurs completely fumbled by trading for De'Aaron Fox instead of going after Trae Young. Even though they managed to keep Stephon Castle, Fox is not the right fit next to Wemby and could end up being a problem. The smarter move would have been targeting Trae Young, especially since the Hawks are desperate to regain the picks they lost in the DeJounte Murray trade. Atlanta likely would have given up a ton just to get their future back, and in return, the Spurs would have landed a far better fit. Trae is a superior playmaker, a much better pick-and-roll partner for Wemby, and the perfect number 2 option to lead the offense. Fox is a good player, but he doesn't elevate this team the way Young would have. San Antonio just blew their best chance at maximizing Wemby's prime. So I see both sides of this argument. On one hand, the Spurs definitely had the leverage to trade for Trae Young since they owned some of the Hawks' picks. With Atlanta looking like they might blow it up, especially after trading DeAndre Hunter and Bogdan Bogdanovic for expiring contracts, it's not unrealistic to think they could have traded for Trae Young, especially since the Hawks needed their draft capital back to truly commit to a rebuild. That said, I think the Spurs are likely prioritizing defense. Coach Pop has always valued strong defenders, and while it's unclear how much longer he'll coach, he probably wouldn't be thrilled about building around a small guard who doesn't play defense like Trae Young. I get the argument that Trae would be a great playmaker for Wemby, but calling the Fox trade a massive fumble feels like an overreaction. They got him without giving up much, so while the Trae Young fit is interesting, I don't think missing out on him is as big of a mistake as it's being made out to be. The last and craziest hot take says, the Mavs absolutely won the Luka-AD trade, and I have no idea why people are upset about it. Y'all need to get over it. If Dallas had given Luka the supermax he wanted, they'd be stuck in the second apron, killing their flexibility. Instead, they set themselves up for success, while the Lakers are about to learn the hard way that Luka isn't the answer. Let's be real, Luka was out of shape, played awful defense in the finals, and was the main reason we lost to Boston. People act like he's untouchable, but at this point, he's just an overglorified Zion Williamson, elite offensively but constantly injured and a defensive liability. Meanwhile, Kyrie and AD are going to be a lethal duo and will win 2 rings when it's all said and done. This season, probably not, but long term, it's happening. As for Luka, give it 3 or 4 years and he'll be injured, frustrated, and begging for a trade, probably to Denver so he can ride Jokic's coattails. Mavs fans crying over this deal will look foolish when we're lifting banners while the Lakers are stuck with an expensive, declining, and unhappy superstar. I completely disagree with this take. The real issue isn't that the Mavericks traded Luka, it's that they didn't explore every option across the entire league. Every team would have been throwing out better offers to outbid each other, and Nico Harrison could have gotten a much better deal. As for the second apron concerns, I get the idea that it limits flexibility, but honestly, Luka is worth it. Even when he's not in peak shape, he's still better than 90% of the league and can still put up 38 and 8. The Mavs just made the finals, so trading him feels like a huge mistake. Also, comparing Luka to Zion is a bad comparison. Zion hasn't even played a playoff game, while Luka was in the finals just 7 months ago. Kyrie and AD will be a solid duo, but they're much older than Luka, and by trading him, the Mavs just shrunk their championship window. I also don't think Luka will be begging for a trade. It's LA, there will always be a market for him, and I'm sure stars will still want to team up with him after LeBron. So I think this hot take makes no sense at all, but what do you think? What's your favorite hot take from this video? Tell me in the comment section below. Until next time, peace.